Ooh, can I have some?
All right, so now we're moving into our Tuta Loca Es section where we are shouting out motherfuckers for doing the most. Now, motherfuckers in this case is us. Us as in the United States. United States as in the coronavirus numbers are jumping. Tis the season for flus and colds, and people are out here sick, not sure if they got corona or if they just have a regular cold. We're seeing a big increase in numbers. Like, yes, we still have a big like the increase in cases in states like Illinois and Texas is super high, right? And in Florida also still high. We have death tolls. We have cities like Texas reporting over 100 deaths during the day. In New York right now, we're looking at anywhere upwards from 3,000 cases a day and about 20 deaths a day. Every life is precious, period. Despite the numbers. Right now, I'm in a place where I have family members who have coronavirus right now. And I think that it was super jarring to have to hear that someone in my family had coronavirus, especially because we'd made it so many months in and like we were good. Like we as in my family, we were good. We were still being cautious. Like we by no means were we trying to like wild out. If anything, I'm the wildest one of the bunch because I've traveled. I've gone to Colorado. I've gone to Los Angeles since the pandemic, and frankly, would probably go somewhere else given the opportunity. And so, like, as somebody who's wild out, but is still seeing that like the numbers are jumping around them, I'm still scared, and I do think that, especially with this like Democratic win and the holidays coming up, that people are going to be feeling themselves a bit much and they're going to be a little too excited and we're going to see these numbers go crazy. I mean, on Halloween, the last episode we had, we talked about this party in the Bronx on Halloween that was 550 people in a warehouse. And it's just kind of like 550 people doesn't sound like a lot until you realize that each of these people, if they have something, can be super spreaders. And then suddenly this one party can be the center of a big spread in New York City, for example, right? So I'm just kind of like weak, a little too comfortable. We got to slow the fuck down. I'm scared still. My family, like immediate family of mine, has coronavirus right now, and thank goodness they're not hospitalized. But the reality is that I am someone who is immunocompromised, and I could very easily be hospitalized. And so that reality smack, super important. So I'm just curious for you guys, like, how have you guys been keeping up with your corona statuses? Are y'all still as cautious as you guys think you were in the beginning of the pandemic? What are you seeing? How are you feeling entering this winter? Just curious about our thoughts.
I think for me, I know that I've definitely calmed down from where I was at the beginning. I think at the very beginning, I went into like a hyper, like buying all the Clorox sprays and spraying everything down, like, and you know, just like being constantly doing it excessively when I actually wasn't even leaving the house. Um, I've left the house and I have traveled. I went to Puerto Rico and I went to LA during the pandemic. So like I have chilled out a little bit, but I also have been kind of just like wary about like because we knew that this would happen. We knew that once flu season came around, we would see a rise in the numbers. So I think that in us knowing that, it's our job to just be more vigilant and be more like aware of what we're doing. And if that just means that you're not going out as much, then bitch is getting cold. Like stay home. You know, Zoom parties worked in March, they'll work in November and they'll work in December too. Um, so I think that like we just gotta kind of like suck it up and do what we got to do to maintain our own health. I personally, I got sick last week. I had a cold and I'm just getting over it, but that freaked me out. Like because I was like having chills and like sneezing and all this stuff, and I was like, ah. But you know, you go, you get tested, you find out if you have it or not, and then you take care of your health and you do what you got to do to keep yourself and others safe. And I think that that's the most important thing that we could do.
Sure. John, what about you?
Yeah, I have a few opinions on that. And I think my first is that I think it boils down to the person. And I think we have a lot of people in this world, who skew between very risk avoidant to like just like fly by the seat of your pants, right? So I would classify myself as somebody who is more likely to engage in risk, who is just like, it sounds fun. However, said in this kind of scenario, right? To speak realistically to coronavirus, um, I've been in situations to where people are going to gather, and it's usually like if it's like five or more people, and it's going to be indoors. I had it to give you two examples. At the beginning of October, my friend wanted to do a birthday party down in North Carolina, but her requirement was that like before you come down, you have to have a confirmed negative COVID test. We all confirmed. We all went down to North Carolina. It felt no types of ways because we just kicked it at the crib. We all knew we were good, right? We hung out with the parents who immunocompromised or not, like it felt good, right? I went to a party last weekend. It was Halloween, and it was suggested. It wasn't like mandated. It was like a come to this party if you will, but like by coming to this party, you understand the risks involved with coronavirus and like if you feel susceptible or if you feel like you may have come into contact with somebody, you get a test, right? So I went to that party too. And I had people who I ran, who, like my girlfriend, for example, she was like, I will not see you after that party until you get a COVID test, which is
Mm-hmm.
very much fair, right? Like, I think now we're at the point of like, I feel like we have a good understanding logically of what, of the risks involved and like how we can handle it. And I will always err on the side of the most cautious person if it's a group thing and it's a group decision, right? But for me personally, like I still went to that party knowing that there were people who could have been there. We were inside, we were masks off. Like I went to that party because I trusted people. So like this is the part of COVID that I think we're entering of like having to trust your people, your peers, and I won't say that scientifically that's the best decision. Like I totally understand anybody who disagrees with that, and anybody who says, I'm going to make moves based on the worst case scenario. Because the worst case scenario of COVID, especially if you're immunocompromised, is being on a ventilator, is being in a situation to where we have record number of hospitalizations, records numbers of people being intubated and doctors having to make decisions that are not personal about who to save, who to put on a ventilator and who not. I don't want to put anybody in that position.
Word. And honestly, like I think for me, like I said, I've wilded out. And for me, wilding out has been, oh, you're getting on a plane, you're wild.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like that's been my wilding out. Otherwise, I spend a lot of time in my house. Otherwise, yes, I'm on Tinder and Hinge, but even when I match, I haven't even really been striking up the conversation because I'm like, really about to fuck these motherfuckers without really knowing. Like, like I've actually there are parts and that is crucial for me. I just want to make that clear.
Yeah. I think dating is super crucial. Like
denying this pussy. And you know what I mean? Like to make sure I'm being safe because I got nieces, I got parents, I got people in my life who I'm always going to see, who I want to be readily available to at any moment without questions asked, be able to be in a room with, and I feel like I'm compromising them, and so I always have to play this game where I'm sacrificing it. For me, again, the big sacrifice is around the pussy and meeting new people because otherwise I only really fuck with my crew. You know what I mean? Otherwise, I really only the New York Dose, Gerard, my sister, like I'm really only staying with the immediate crew anyway, right? So I think it's important that we do stay ready to be safe. I do think that it is important that we also, I think for me, the biggest point is that I realized that even the guidance that we got back in March is not the guidance that we're getting now here in November. And so for a lot of us who tuned out of those daily briefings and shit like that, it is good for us to do another little like quick just catch up. Like, how long is this shit living on surfaces, and just really getting our numbers straight, so that even while we're trying to celebrate the holidays, because this is a season that's upon us, we're trying to do Thanksgiving, we're trying to do Christmas, everybody's trying to do New Year, because if none of the other two count, you know, definitely on December 31st, niggas is trying to get all the way turned to throw 2020 out the fucking window, that we understand what our updated guidances are and how we're respecting that or not respecting that, to John's point, so that we're clear on how we can be the safest while doing something that is very clearly unsafe, deemed by the CDC. So yeah, you know, just wanted to bring it up. Just wanted to say the numbers are going up. We are celebrating. We are in now a new democratic situation. But the reality is that coronavirus is still here, and Joe Biden does not have a magic antidote. So we are still responsible for our own healing, despite the fact that we feel like we're moving forward. So just wanted to say that.